Alright, we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is daf Zayin. We are picking up on daf Vav Amud Beis 6b, and we're picking up 4 lines up from the bottom. Masnisin delok Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Our Mishnah does not reflect the view of Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. What does Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha say? The Sanya, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Omer, Malva B'Shas. So remember again, we're speaking about the prohibition to engage in certain types of activities with Ovdei Kochavim for 3 days prior to the beginning of their Yom Tiv. So one of the things you can't do ultimately is what? Is collect debts. You can't go ahead and repay the debt. You can't go ahead and the Gemara says collect the debt. So the Gemara says our Mishnah does not reflect the view of Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. What does Yeshua ben Karcha say? Disanyo, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Omer, Malva b'shtar ein efron man. Rabbi will say if the debt was recorded in a document, you can't collect from them. However, malva or milva al peh nifrod man. Rabbi will say at the end of the day, if the debt was verbal, then you can collect that debt from them even 3 days before the Yom Tov. Why? Rabbi will say because here's the issue: when a debt is not recorded in a document and a debt is verbal, there's a concern that what? There's a concern that the akum could easily deny it. Because the akum could deny it, therefore again, the Yisrael runs the risk of a significant loss. As a result, ultimately again, the Yisrael has the right to collect it even 3 days prior to the Yom Tiv. Yosef, Rabbi Yosef, Achorid Rabbi Abba. So Rabbi Yosef was sitting behind Rabbi Abba. Yosef, Rabbi Abba, Kameid Ravuna. And Rabbi Abba was sitting, so Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, again, just one more time, this one makes this distinction between a debt recorded in a document versus a verbal debt. A debt recorded in a document cannot be collected 3 days prior to the Yom Tov. Why? Because since that debt is collectible, just collect it after the Yom Tov. However, a verbal debt, which is not recorded in a document, we'll say the issue there is one runs the risk of loss. Because of that, one has to collect it whenever possible, and therefore one could collect it even 3 days before the Yom Tov. So says the Gemara. So remember, says Yosef, Rabbi Yosef, Kameid Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Yosef was sitting behind Rabbi Abba. Yosef, Rabbi Abba, Kameid Rafuna. Rabbi Abba was sitting before Rafuna. Yosef V'Kamar, and Rav Huna said the following: Hilchosek Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. So ultimately, again, Rav Huna said the halacha follows Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. V'Hilchosek Rabbi Yehuda, and the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. Hilchosek Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha had the amr. So we'll say when Rav Huna says that the halacha follows Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, that's as we just mentioned before, namely that the prohibition to collect a debt 3 days before the Yom Tiv is only a debt recorded in a document. But a debt that is a verbal debt, one could go ahead and collect it even right before the Yom Tiv. Even right before the Yom Tiv. We'll say why? Because at the end of the day, one runs the risk of loss, and therefore one could collect it. What about Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda disanya hanosin tsemer latzava litzba la'adam v'tzavau shachar. This is an interesting case. I give wool to the dyer. Now I give wool to the dyer for the purpose of dyeing it red. And what happens? He makes a mistake and he dyes it black. Or shachar v'tzavar adam. Or I want it black and he dyes it red. The point is, he does something that I told him not to do. So we'll say the shaila now is, what are the ramifications? Top of Zion. Rabbi Meir Omer, no sin lo demeit samro. Rabbi Meir says, listen, at the end of the day, the dyer gives me back the value of the wool. Meaning I gave him, let's say, wool that was worth $100, he gives me back $100. You don't start getting into what's the value of red wool, black wool. He gives me back $100. I've also said, this is actually very interesting. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, no sin lo, top Rashi, Zayin Amud Aleph, no sin lo at seva demeit samro, no sin lo tseva ze demeit semer lavan, kibetchila, imirtzem, tisrili Rabbi Meir, kala mashanami das bailav, nikra gazlon, ukino b'shinui kidimafarsh b'abakama ba'goz la'etzim, v'not la tsemer li'atzmo, afapishu mu'ula achshav dam. So this is actually quite interesting. Rabbi Meir is of the opinion, I will say, that when you are a craftsman, and you deviate from the instructions of the owner of the object, so you become a gazlan, you become a thief. The halacha is a thief acquires the object. Therefore, Rabbi Meir's view, ultimately, again, the thief acquires the wool itself, the thief acquires the wool, and therefore, again, is obligated to go ahead and compensate me for the original value of the wool. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ema shevach yesra al hayitzia, no sino as hayitzia. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. If the appreciation of the wool is greater than the expenses, then no sin lois hayitzia. then ultimately again the craftsman gives me the value of the expenses. Vim hayitzia yisera ala shavach. But ultimately again, if the expense, I should say differently, I, the owner of the object, Rabbi uses it differently. If the appreciation is greater than the expenses, no silas hayitzia, I, the owner of the object, paid the dyer for his expenses. Vim hayitzia yisera ala shavach. But if the expenses are more expensive than the appreciation, they know silas hashavach. Then I simply pay the dyer for the value of the appreciation. I will say the idea that Rabbi Yehuda says is that Lamaisa, I pay the dyer for something, but I pay him the lesser of the two amounts, the lesser of the appreciation of the object or the expenses. So we'll say therefore again, Rav Huna says that the halacha follows Rabbi Meir in this particular case. Adrinu Rav Yosef la'apeh. So we'll say, the Gemara says, Rav Yosef turned his face away. So Rav Yosef turns his face away from Rav Huna in a show of displeasure about Rav Huna's statement. We'll discuss exactly what Rav Yosef didn't like in just a moment. So says the Gemara, Bishlama halacha Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. So I understand when Rav Huna said the halacha of Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha, it's tirich. This is a necessary statement. Why? Remember, what does Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha say? Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha says that the prohibition to collect a debt prior to the Yom Tiv of Ovdei Kochavim is what? Only if the debt is recorded in writing, because you could collect that at any time you have a shtar. But if it is a milva al peh, if the debt is verbal, then Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha paskins, you could even collect it right before their Yom Tiv. Why? Because it's kimat sil miyadam. Because you run the risk of a loss of the debt being uncollectible if you don't collect it now. So I understand why it was necessary for Rav Huna to say the halacha like Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. Why? It's tzrich schachadayit chamina yachid v'rabim halacha kirabim. Because it was who is Rav Huna? Who is Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha arguing against? He's arguing against the Rabbanon. Now, under normal circumstances, when you have a machlokes between the yachid and the rabbim, an individual and the collective, or a larger number of people, the halacha usually follows the rabbim. As such, I would have thought that the halacha normally follows the Rabbanan, not Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. Therefore, kamash malon halacha ki yachid. Therefore, Rav Huna comes along and teaches me, that in this particular case, the halacha follows the yachid, the halacha follows the individual, ultimately again, and we pass like Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. The Gemara says, Ella, halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda lamali. But once at the end of the day, why do I need Rav Huna to state that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda? Why is that necessary? To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why. I also remember Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion who says what? Rabbi Yehuda holds that if I give wool to the dyer, and what happens? I tell him to dye it red, and he dyes it black. So what is my responsibility to pay the dyer? So Rabbi Yehuda says what? It's the lesser of the expenses or the appreciation. Whatever is the lesser of those two amounts is what I pay the dyer. So it says the Gemara, why do I need? The Gemara tells me that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. So pshita, it's obvious. I'll tell you why. The machlokes va'achar kach stam hilchasa kistam. I will say in general we have the following principle: that when you have a machlokes, when you have a matter of halacha that is the subject of a machlokes, it's the subject of a dispute. But then after following that machlokes, I will say there is a stam mishnah which supports one side. The halacha follows the stam mishnah, which I will say, if you think about it, is a fascinating principle. So if there's a machlokas, right, a dispute, followed by a stam. I will say stam means a one-sided ruling, which reflects one of the two sides of the machlokas. The halacha follows the stam mishnah. And I will say that would seem to be this scenario. Why? Watch this. Machlokas baba kama. I will say the machlokas we just quoted above on the top of Zayin Amud Aleph, between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, that's machlokas in baba kama. We saw that machlokas together. Ustam bebav metzia. But there is a stam mishnah bav metzia. What's the stam mishnah bav metzia? This 9, Rabbi say, here we go. Kala mishana. Anytime you give an object to a craftsman, and the craftsman deviates from the instructions he was given, yodo ala tachtona. He has the lower hand. He has the lower hand, which I will say supports the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Because what does Rabbi Yehuda say? If I give wool to the craftsman, I tell him to dye it red, and what? He dyes it black. What do I owe him? What do I owe him? We'll say, right? I owe him the lower of the two amounts, the lower of either the lower of either the expenses or the appreciation. So we'll say, so remember, we begin with a machlokes in Baba Kama, machlokes Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir. Then we have a stam Mishnah Bav Metzia, and the stam Mishnah says that any time the craftsman deviates, yado al hatachtona, he has the lower hand, which I will say supports the view of Rabbi Yehuda that I, the owner of the wall, only have to pay the lower of the two amounts of appreciation or expenses. Similarly, I will say similarly again, if anyone reneges on an agreement, yado ala tachtona, the reneger, right? Ultimately, again, the person who reneges ultimately is the one who has the lower hand. So it says the Gemara Rav Huna. So we'll say, so what's the pshat? So I mean, at the end of the day, if it appears to be that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda, so why did Rav Huna have to make a declarative statement? Meaning, at the end of the day, Rav Huna feels compelled to go and say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. But again, if we have a principle that machlokes ve'achar kach stam, bless you, if you have a machlokes followed by a stam mishnah, then what? The halacha follows the stam, which seems to tell us that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. If that's the case, then why does Rav Huna feel the need to make a declarative statement that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda? I'll tell you why. Rav Huna nishum de'ein seder lemishnah de'ikalamemar stam tana bereisha va'achar kach machlokes. Oh, we'll say this is so interesting because Rav Huna will say follows the opinion as follows, which says who says that there's an order. Who says that there's an order to the Masechtas? Now we'll see what this means in just a moment. So Rav Huna says, you're saying to me that there's a machlokes in Baba Kama and then a stam mishnah in Baba Metzia. But who says that is the order? Who says that's a chronological order, so to speak, of arguments? Maybe, in fact, the stam mishnah Baba Metzia was stated before the machlokes in Baba Kama, in which case, again, I will say the principle we're trying to employ does not work. Always remember, the principle only goes in one direction. If you have a machlokes and then a stam, then the halacha follows the stam mishnah. If you have a stam and then a machlokes, the halacha doesn't necessarily follow the stam mishnah. So all Rav Huna is saying is, you're looking at the machlokes in Baba Kama and then the stam mishnah in Baba Metzia as almost like a linear progression from Baba Kama to Baba Metzia. Rav Huna says, who says? Who says? And therefore Rav Huna feels compelled to go ahead and say that halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. So Gemara says, well, 1 second, if that's the case, Kol machlokes va'achar kach stam lema ein seder lemishnah. 1 second. Then why don't you say that everywhere? In other words, why don't you say that in every single situation? Remember, we have a principle that says machlokes va'achar kach stam. That if you have a dispute and then that is followed afterwards by a stam mishnah, that the halacha follows a stam mishnah. Now we're always assuming a chronological progression, but maybe not. Who says that again? The stam came after the machlokes. To which someone says, no. Rav Huna kilo amrinan ein seder bechad mesechta. Rav Huna will say, when do we say that there's not a seder? That's only in one mesechta. So we'll say, in one tractate, in one mesechta itself, it could be that even though something appears, on a later daf than something else, lav dafka means that there's a chronology to that. Betray mesechti amrinan. But I will say, in two mesechtos, ultimately, again, we will say that it follows a progression. Therefore, I will say, if you have a machlokes in one mesechta, and then in a later mesechta you have a stam mishnah, so that'll qualify for the principle of stam, or I should say machlokes va'achar kach stam halacha kistam. But Rav Yosef will say, and I will say this is the reason why Rav Yosef got upset. Kula nezikin chad mesechti. He holds that all of nezikin, I will say, is treated like one mesechta, and therefore, again, whatever you see in the seder of nezikin ultimately follows a chronological progression. Therefore, he sees it as a davar pashut that first you have the machlokes in Baba Kama, then the stam mishnah Baba Metzia, which tells you by itself that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. I don't need Rav Huna to make a declarative statement that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. To which the Gemara says, "V'bay same." I will say the other possibility is Gabi Hilchasa Psikta. Both said there's another reason why Rav Huna did not need to state that the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda, and that's because why? That's because at the end of the day, this is also what we call halacha psikta. Both say halacha psikta is this is codified elsewhere as an agreed upon halacha. Kala meshane yado ala tachtona. Both say that anyone who goes ahead and deviates from the terms of his craftsman, of his craftsmanship, of his agreement, ultimately, again, the one who changes the terms has the lower hand. Similarly, anyone who reneges on an agreement, yado ala tachtona. Ultimately, again, he has the lower hand as well. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the Rambam does accept the position of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha, namely again Abosai, that when the Mishnah talks about the prohibition of collecting debts within 3 days prior to the Yom Tov of the Akum, that is only by a debt recorded in a document. Because since the debt is secured by a document, you could collect it just as easily after the Yom Tov as well. But if it is a verbal debt, there is no document, and therefore again the Jew, every day the Jew doesn't collect it, increases his risk of non-collection because the Akum could just deny it in totality. That type of debt can be collected even 3 days prior to the Yom Tov of the Akum, because he's saving himself from a loss. Furthermore, again, even though this is not the sugya, we do paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, and in this case over here, where I give the dyer wool, and I tell him to dye it red, and he dyes it black, so what do I owe him? What do I owe him? So remember, Rabbi Meir says you owe him nothing, you just get back the value of your wool. Rabbi Yehuda says, I do owe him. What do I owe him? The lesser of the two amounts, either the lesser of the expenses or of the appreciation. Tan Rabbana, also the Gemara goes later. Lo yomer adam lechaveira. Listen to this. We'll say so now. Once we're quoting Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha, the Gemara quotes a whole bunch of other rulings of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha. So lo yomer adam lechaveiro hanira shetamod imi la'erev. We'll say a person shouldn't say to his friend. This is from a conversation on Shabbos. Maybe you'll come with me on Matzei Shabbos. Now look at Rashi just a moment. Hanira, it's towards the bottom of Rashi. Ato nira lashon havo novo. Lo yomer lo b'Shabbos, hanirim tamot imi le'erev lasos b'malachti le'erev. So we'll say a person can't say to his friend, no, maybe you'll come with me. Maybe you'll come with me, to help me out on Matzei Shabbos. And it's clear that what am I referring to? I'm referring to work that I need Ruvain to do. Right? So maybe hanira, is it possible? Maybe you'll come with me Matzei Shabbos to whatever it is to help me. I will say in this context, Ruvain understands what I mean when I say help me. Yeah, help me with my field, whatever it is. So the Gemara says, you're not allowed to, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha says, the Brisa says that Rabbanan say you're not allowed to say this. I will say, now you're not allowed to say this. Why? Because ultimately, this is a situation of prohibited speech on Shabbos. The halacha is that on Shabbos, one is v'daber davar. We learn that from the pasuk that one is supposed to speak differently on Shabbos. That diburcha shel Shabbos lo teiki diburcha shel chol. The way you speak on Shabbos should be different than the way you speak during the week. And therefore, one ultimately again shouldn't engage in mundane matters. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha Omer Adam lechavera hanira shetamod imi la'erev. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha says, no, you are permitted to go ahead and make such a statement. Now, I will say, what's Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha's logic? His logic, I will say, is that halacha lemaisa. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha says it's only prohibited if you explicitly articulate that you want him to come to do work. Meaning, hanira imi la'erev is a generally innocuous, open-ended statement. I'm not saying anything about work. I'm not saying anything about the malacha. I'm just saying, hey, maybe you'll come along with me on Matzei Shabbos. So Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha says such a statement is mutter. So it says the Gemara, Amar Rabba bar Chana, Amar Rabba bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, halacha ki Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha. So Rabbi says, Rabba bar Chana says, the halacha follows Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha, that such a statement indeed is permitted. Why? Because it makes no explicit mention of malacha. Ten Rabbanon. Also listen to this. Hanisha, this is an important principle, I will say. Hanisha l'chacham v'timei, lo yisha l'chacham v'yitaher. If you asked the Talmud Chacham a shayla, and the Talmud Chacham says it's tamei, don't go and ask someone else who is going to tell you that it's tahor. So l'chacham v'aser, or you ask the Talmud Chacham, and the Chacham told you that it's aser, lo yisha l'chacham v'yatir. Do not ask another Chacham who will give you a heter. Let's say again, there are two Talmidei Chachamim sitting there. Echad metami ve'echad metar, echad oser ve'echad matir. So in this case over here, I go to ask a shayla, and I happen to ask, there are two Talmidei Chachamim sitting together, and I happen to ask them the shayla. And again, one says mutter, one says aser, one says tamei, one says tar. So we'll say, what's the halacha? So meaning now, shayla is, who do I follow? Right, so it's amazingly enough, the answer is not whoever I want. Right, so amazingly enough, even for this, there is a mechanism. If one of the two Talmidei Chachamim will say was greater than the other, b'chachma means in wisdom, b'minyan. What does minyan mean? I will say in age. So if one of the Talmidei Chachamim was greater than his fellow in wisdom and in age, then halach acharav. Then ultimately again, you follow that one. Ve'im lav, and if not, halach achar hamachmir. Follow the one who is more machmir. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says, B'shal Torah halach achar machmir. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says, when it comes to a doraisa, so follow the one who is more machmir. B'shal sofrim halach achar hamekil. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says it depends. In a doraisa, follow the more machmir. In a derabanan, follow the more mekil. Which Rabbi say makes sense. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha is saying is essentially when you have a machlokes titamei chachamim, this becomes a suffix. So it'll be suffix doraisa l'chumra. When you have doubts regarding biblical law, you go l'chumra. Suffix d'rabbanan l'kula. Doubts regarding rabbinic law, you'll go l'kula. Amar Rav Yosef, hilchasak Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Rav Yosef says the halacha follows Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Fine. 10 rabbanim. So the Gemara goes weiter. Kulan shechazru bahan in mekaben oson olos. We'll say this is an amazing statement. So all kulan shechazru. We'll say all of these people who did tshuva. Who are all of these people? Look at Rashi. The kulan shechazru. We'll say 4 lines are from the bottom of Rashi. Agazlonin va'ami aretz kair. We'll say let's say somebody was a thief, and therefore again they are apostle eidos. And now what happens? The person wants to do tshuva. So we'll say, so can you be makabel the tshuva of the individual? So the Gemara says all of these individuals of the tshuva. Ein mekablen osan olamis. The Rabbi Meir says we do not accept them as bali tshuva. What does this mean? Look at Rashi. Ein mekablen osan lachzikan b'toras chavros lismoch aleim. We'll define the scope of this. Rabbi Meir says essentially once someone has established himself as a gazlan or as an ama aretz, essentially again he cannot redeem his reputation. Rabbi Yehuda Omer chazru b'hem matmonios in mekablen osan. If the person does tshuva privately, then that doesn't change their status. Befarhesya, but if the person does tshuva publicly, that does change their status. Mekablen osan, ikadam. Rabbi say others say, asu divrei b'matmonios mekablen osan. If Rabbi say the averos which were committed, which relegated a person to a compromised status, were done b'tzina, were done ultimately at matmonios, were done quietly or in a hidden way, in a private way, then you have the ability to accept them as Bali Tshuva. However, Amud Bezer will say, Bifarhesya, if however Chas Hashem the Avera was done Bifarhesya, Ein Mekablin Osan, they will say they cannot redeem their public reputation. But I want to be clear, this is not talking about a person's ability to become a Bal Tshuva on a private level. Well, right, that's the Timin HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is talking about, again, if somebody has established for himself a certain identity, as a Gazlan, as an Amaretz, based on his public behaviors, so does he have the ability to rehabilitate his reputation? So we'll say, so Rabbi Meir is now suggesting over here that it depends. Or excuse me, Rabbi Huda is saying that it depends. If he went ahead and he committed these averos privately, then he has the ability to rehabilitate his reputation. If, however, he did these averos publicly, his reputation is beyond repair. Look at Rashi. Tap Rashi Zayin with Beis Bifar Hasya. Hoil upakru kol kach shuv enostin liban loshu b'tshuva shlema. We'll say if a person is so brazen to sin publicly, if a person is so brazen to commit an avera b'far hesya, such a person usually doesn't do tshuva shlema. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Omer, both Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha say, Benkach ubenkach mekabel. We'll say beautiful. Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha say that no matter what a person did an avera b'tzina b'matmonios, a person did it privately, person did it publicly, whatever type of avera a person did, ultimately again we are mekabel them b'tshuva. We accept their tshuva. If a person does tshuva and it's a genuine tshuva, we allow them to rehabilitate their reputations. Why? Shene emar shuvu banim shovavim. Because the pasuk says, "Return, O wayward children." Return. So what is this? Rashi says, "Shovavim mashma mazidim o befarhesya loshon mered v'gaiva kama vayelech shovi b'derech libo." We'll say the lashon shovavim doesn't just mean wayward. That's the English word we use. But shovim means even if you went ahead and you violated avera befarhesya, even if you did it b'mezid, if you did it b'gaiva, b'mered, b'pesha, any type of avera you did, the Ribbon Shalom says, come back. We'll say such is the love that the Ribbon Shalom has for us, that no matter what I have done, and no matter how I have done it, the Ribbon Shalom says to me, come home. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says, no matter what you've done, you have the ability to rehabilitate your reputation and to ultimately do tshuva. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Ish Kfar Akko, Rabbi Yitzchak from Akko said, Rabbi Yochanan, Hilchasa K'osa Hazuk. The halacha follows this pair. The halacha follows Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yoshev and Karchavos, and therefore the halacha is, no matter what a person has done wrong, they have the ability to do tshuva. Beautiful, Rabbi say. Says the Mishnah. All right, Rabbi say, Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel says, Shlosha lefneim v'shlosha lachareim aser. It comes on Rabbi Shmuel. We actually saw this alluded to in last week's daf. Rabbi Shmuel says, we'll say not only are the 3 days prior to the Yom Tov of the Akum Aser in all of these transactions, but 3 days after the Yom Tov is also Aser. The Chum say Lifnei Yidein Aser. The Chum say no. Only before the Yom Tov is Aser, La'achar Ideihan Mutter. After the Yom Tov will be Mutter. So says the Gemara say, Amar Rav Tachlifa Bar Avdimi Amar Shmuel Yom Echad L'Divrei Rabbi Shmuel Li'olam Aser. Both say this. By the way, we saw this quoted in yesterday's daf. As an aside, Rabbi Shmuel also, in addition to saying that the transactional prohibition applies 3 days before their Yom Tov and 3 days after the Yom Tov, Rabbi Shmuel is also of the opinion that you are never permitted to transact business with an akum on Sunday. On Sunday, why? Because every Sunday is a day of Avodah Zara. Every Sunday it's not just because of football. Every single Sunday, we have Avodah Zara also. But every single Sunday, right, they will say, was considered to be a Yom Tov of Avodah Zara for the Akum. They will say, Rashi says something dramatically wild. If you look at Rashi, it's the third wide line down from the top, the Olam Aser, Shlosha Lefanav, Ushlosha Acharav, V'hu Atzmo, Kilomar Kol Shiva Simei HaShabbos. We'll say what Rabbi Shmuel actually holds is as follows. Remember, we just got finished saying that Rabbi Shmuel, we're going to bring everything together. Three principles colliding in one space. Principle number one is that Rabbi Shmuel's prohibition on business transaction with an akum is 3 days before, 3 days after. Furthermore, we saw in yesterday's daf that's what? Rabbi Shmuel, at least it appears right now, also holds that it's hein below idehen. That the 3 days is in addition to the Yom Tov itself. So it's 3 days plus the Yom Tov. Rabbi Shmuel also holds that what? Every single Sunday is a Yom Tov for the Akum. So if you put all of those things together, what do you get? Never. You can never transact business with an Akum. Because the Bible says if every single Sunday is a Yom Tov, then the 3 days before that, not including Shabbos, Sunday, and the 3 days after that, not including Sunday, the Bible says essentially answers business with an akum the entire week, which I will say is a very, very dramatic position. But you see the position of Rabbi Shmuel. Again, we're going to discuss. We're going to further discuss the shita. Says the Gemara, "V'cham say lefnei yidein aser la'achar yidehen muter." The Chachamim say about saying. So remember, we have Rabbi Shmuel in the Mishnah saying 3 days before, 3 days after. The Chachamim say before the Yom Tov is aser, after the Yom Tov is muter. Chachamim haynu tanakama. So we'll say, here's the problem. The Chachamim of this Mishnah seem to be saying the same thing as the Tanakama of the previous Mishnah. So, but obviously they can't be saying the same thing, because if they were saying the same thing, then what? No. Then the Mishnah over here would not feel the need to once again say, Chachamim omrim lifnei idehen aser, la'achar idehen mutter. The fact that the Mishnah feels compelled to restate this shita means the Chachamim of this Mishnah must be saying something different than the Tanakama of the previous Mishnah. So what's going on over here? So the Gemara says, Ika ben, I'll tell you the difference between them. Tanakama savar, the Tanakama of the previous Mishnah holds, hein below idehen, holds also that the 3 days do not include the Yom Tov itself. But the Chacham of this Mishnah also hold that the 3 days include the actual day of the Yom Tov as well. We'll say that's possibility one. The second possibility is Nasa v'Nasan ikavena. We'll say that ultimately again, what happens if you violate it? What happens, although you're not permitted to transact business with an akum in the days leading up to his Yom Tov, what happens if you did? We'll say when we say what happens if you did is what is the status of those proceeds? Tanakama savar nasav natan mutter. Tanakama holds that if you violated and you went ahead and you transacted business, the proceeds will be mutter. Rabbanan basrei savi nasa v'nasan ater. Nasa v'nasan aser. The Rabbanan, on the other hand, hold. The Rabbanan of this Mishnah hold that if you transacted business, the proceeds will be aser. V'bay same. Another possibility is the Shmuel ikabinayu. that maybe their machlokes of Osai is about the statement of Shmuel. So listen to this. Remember Shmuel, Bagola ein aser ela yom ida. It's actually quite interesting. Shmuel holds that in Galus of Osai, only the actual day of the Yom Tov is aser. Meaning Shmuel holds that outside of Eretz Yisrael, the prohibition of the previous 3 days does not apply. Only the day of the Yom Tov itself is aser. Rabbi said, what's the pshat? This is amazing, by the way. Listen to this incredible musar. Rashi says, Bagola, you see where that is in Rashi in the short lines, probably about 12 lines in. Bagola, Ein ha'ovdin kochavim adukin kol kach ba'avodas kochavim. Rabbi say, I want to tell you something amazing. Eretz Yisrael is so dramatically halig that even the idolaters of Eretz Yisrael are starker. The idea is that the idolaters of Eretz Yisrael, they're stark idolaters. The idolaters of Chutz La'aretz, they're more modern. They're a little bit more modern, right? The idolaters of Chutz La'aretz will say, so they're not as stark. They're not as adukim. They're not as attached to Avodah Zara. They do it because whatever, but they're not. It's not so passionate. They don't do it with so much meaning. It's not such a brand with it. So everyone will say it's amazing. So Shmuel says that ultimately, again, you could transact business with them even right up to their Yom Tov. Not on the Yom Tov itself, but even right up to the Yom Tov. Why? Because at the end of the day, they're not really going to give Shevach Avodah. They're not going to give praise to their idol like the idolaters of Eretz Yisrael would. We'll say, if that's what the land does, we'll say, the koach of Eretz Yisrael is it amplifies the koach hanafshi of a person. Eretz Yisrael amplifies the spiritual koach of a person. The great unknown or the great variable is how you go ahead and you choose to use your spiritual energy. That's why I will say you see the greatest amount of passion to be found in this world on all sides is in Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't matter Jew and non-Jew. It's the koach of the land. It amplifies the koach hanafshi, koach haruchni of the person. The only shayla is how you choose to plug that in. That's why Eretz Yisrael is the site of every single one of the most passionate conflicts of mankind always occurs on the soil of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore I will say the Gemara says, Tana Kama Islay the Shmuel. So the Tana of the previous Mishnah holds of Shmuel. The Rabbanim Asray Islay the Shmuel. I will say ultimately again, the Chachamim of this Mishnah don't hold of Shmuel. Okay. Ibai Seimer. I will say the other possibility is what's the nafkamina between the two? What's the machlokes? The Nachum Hamadi Ikabeher. I will say the machlokes is regarding a statement of Nachum Hamadi. So they'll say Nachum Hamadi means Nachum from media, from Madai. So the Sanya Nachum Hamadi Omer. Eino Asr Elayom Echa Lifnei Eden. I will say Nachum Hamadi is of the opinion. He disagrees with everyone. Nachum Hamadi I will say holds that only the day before, only Erev Yom Tov. Only Erev Yom Tov. I will say everybody agrees you can't transact business with the Akum on Yom Tov, on their Yom Tov itself. So I will say Nachum Hamadi says also Erev Yom Tov. But only one day, only Erev Yom Tov. So the Gemara says, Lifnei Eden Tana Kama is less than Nachum Hamadi. But I'll say the Tana of the previous Mishnah does not hold of Nachum Hamadi. But Rabbanan Basra will say first wide line Islu de Nachum Hamadi. I will say the Rabbanan of this Mishnah do hold of Nachum Hamadi. I will say that just to give an interesting diuk, if you look in our Mishnah, the Chacham just say the Chacham Omrim Lifnei Idehen Aser. The Gemara is suggesting that perhaps the Chacham of our Mishnah, when they say that before the Yom Tov is Aser, they don't mean 3 days. Even though everybody's talking about 3 days up until now, perhaps they subscribe to the opinion of Nachum Hamadi that only once. I will say only one day. I will say first wide line Gufa. Now we'll say, now here's what's interesting. Now that we just quoted Nachum Hamadi, we're going to quote a number of different rulings from him. So first we're going to go back and explore the one we just mentioned. Nachum Hamadi Omer Eino Asr El Yom Echad Lifnei Eden. Nachum Hamadi said that only Erev Yom Tov of the Akum's Yom Tov is Asr. So the Gemara said, Amr Lo Nishtake Hadavar Velo Ne'emar. So the Rabbi said, let this matter be forgotten and let's not talk about it. Rashi says, what does that mean? Nishtake hadavar lo yatsa. We'll say it's almost right across in Rashi. Lo yatsa davar zemi pi adam li'olam. So we'll say it could be either what they're saying is Nachum Hamadi never said that. No one ever said this. Or lishnachrina lo yetze davar zelachutz. Or even if Nachum Hamadi did say this, then what? Don't publicize it. Don't publicize. So we'll say two possibilities. Either Nachum Hamadi never said it, or even if he said it, shut it down. Shut it down. So the Gemara says. 1 second. So we'll say, but 1 second, we just established that what? That the Rabbanan, the Chacham of our Mishnah, in fact, do hold this way. Man chachamim, we'll say who are the chachamim? Nachum Hamadi. Or we'll say could be when the Mishnah says chachamim, the chachamim are in fact is Nachum Hamadi. Fine, Tanya Yidach. We'll say another brisa. Now again, now that we mentioned Nachum Hamadi, we're going to quote a couple of other rulings that were said in his name. Tanya Yidach. Nachum Hamadi Omer. Mochrim Memsus Zachar V'Zaki B'Melchamer. We'll say we're actually going to discuss this about the halacha of selling behema gasa, large animals, to non-Jews. We're going to discuss certain prohibitions concerning that which have to deal with Hilchos Shabbos. So again, we're not going to delve into it now. Right now, we're just going to take this ruling at face value. So Nachum Hamadi says, well, let me just give you this piece of background. The halacha is, I'm not allowed to rent behema gasa, which I will say usually is an animal that's used for work, to an akum if that rental is going to extend over Shabbos. Why? Because if the akum goes ahead and works that animal over Shabbos, effectively it's what? Right. It's my animal that's working on Shabbos. Because since it's a rental, I am still the titular owner, right? I go ahead, I have title. I have title to that animal. So because I am the owner, it is my animal that's working on Shabbos. So the rabbis enacted a number of different gezeros in order not to come to that type of situation. Nachum Hamadi is saying an exception to that rule is you could sell an akum, an old male horse, in a time of war. And so we'll say it's a very limited dispensation, right? An old male horse in a time of war. So if we look at Rashi says, Mochran lehem sus zachar zakin, b'soach hamakama, she'enu el lekilkul, umilsa lo sheichel. Because we'll say the assumption is that usually if it's during wartime, those animals are not going to really be used for work, rather they'll be used for war. And again, apparently the Gemara operates under the assumption that most animals that go out to war are killed in battle. So as such, again, there's no real concern that one may come to use this animal for work on Shabbos. Amar lo, so they said to Nachum Hamadi, Nishtake hadavar v'lo ne'amar. So we'll say once again, the Rabbanan shut down Nachum Hamadi. And they say to him, quiet down. Nishtake hadavar, let the matter be forgotten, and we're not going to publicize this. Next, so Gemara says, "V'hoika ben beseira dekai kavase." But one second, there's ben beseira who holds like Nachum Hamadi. This none ben beseira matir besus. So ultimately, again, it says that ben beseira permits. Ultimately, again, the selling of a horse. Rashi says ben beseira matir besus. It's actually interesting. Ben beseira says because we'll see later on. The only issue of selling a large animal to an akum are usually animals that are used for work in a field. Because a horse is not usually used for work in a field, but rather is used ultimately again for people to ride on, therefore Ben Beseira says that the rabbinic prohibition does actually not apply to a horse. So the Gemara says, but one second, Ben Beseira lo maflig bein zechar lenekevos. Ben Beseira did not make a distinction between male horses and female horses. Ihu. So we'll say ultimately again, but Ben Beseira who goes ahead and makes a distinction between the Zechar and the Nekevus holds like the Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan just said, let the matter be forgotten and not be spoken about. So we'll say another ruling of Ben Azai that is shelved. Not Ben Azai, I'm sorry. Nachum Hamadi, another ruling of Nachum Hamadi that is shelved. Next, Tanya, Nachum Hamadi Omer, Hasheves. We'll say Sheves is dill. So dill, misaser zera v'yerek v'zirin. So we'll say apparently dill can be consumed in a number of different ways. It can be consumed in seed form, in fully formed vegetable form, and in shoot form. Therefore, Rabbi say, however a person chooses to consume this particular item, the obligation, Rabbi say, let me say differently, the obligation for meiser is triggered when a food item has reached a completed state. What the Gemara now is saying over here is that what the Bryce is saying is that at the end of the day, dill can be consumed in three different ways: seed form, vegetable form, and shoot form. Whichever form you're consuming it in triggers the obligation for meiser. Rashi says over here, misaser zera v'yerak uzirin, bein shalaktu kishu yerak, bein shalaktu kishu zirin, ubein sheinichu ad shetzamchu garine Zara b'socho, v'okshu chavatan, l'tzarech la'aser es hazer midrabanan. The orche lebichle zera v'yerak uzirin. So we'll say, however you're going to eat it, it triggers an obligation for meiser. Amrulo, nishtake hadavar v'lo ne'amar. So the rabbis once again said, let the matter be forgotten, and not be spoken about. Shelve it. But 1 second. Rabbi Eliezer holds like Nachum Amadi. Disnan. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Hasheves mis aseres zera v'yerek v'zirin. But 1 second, Rabbi Eliezer seems older. Will say that what? That dill can be consumed either as a seed, as a vegetable, or as a shoot. So you see, I will say that again. He holds like Nachum Amadi. No. Hasam bidagnunisa. So apparently, Rabbi Eliezer is only talking about garden dill. So apparently, garden variety dill is what's okay. Nachum Amadi is talking about dill in general. So because of that, ultimately, again, the rabbis step in and they shelve Nachum Hamadi's ruling. So we'll say, listen to this. So now we'll say it gets a little bit heated. So Rav Acha bar Minyumi says, Abaye, I don't understand what you're doing. Gavra Rabba Asa me Asrin. There is a great man who comes from my sin. I will say, Rav Acha bar Minyumi is also from Madai. And he is getting very upset that every single one of Nachum's statements is getting shelved. So Rav Acha bar Minyumi says, Abaye, I don't understand. There's a great man from my city, from Madai. And every single thing that he says, every single thing that comes out of Nachum's mouth, you're going ahead and you're shelving. Why are you doing that? So Rabbi says, so ultimately again, Abaye says, calm down. There is something that we hold like Nachum Hamadi about, and don't think we shelve every one of his rulings, just most of them. But there is something that we go to Paskin like him. How do we pass like him? Well, listen to this. Tesanya. Nachum Hamadi Omer, Shoel Adam Tzrachav B'Shomei Tefillah. Well, so Nachum Hamadi says that a person could ask for his requests in Shomei Tefillah. The Rabbi said in the bracha of Shomei Tefillah in Shmona Esrei that a person could be marich. Rashi says marich bav shol tzrachav. A person could go ahead and ask all of his needs in Shomei Tefillah. Amar bar minei. So Rabbi say apparently Rav Acha bar Minyumi is not impressed because he says, okay, everybody holds like that. Dahahi Detalya ba'ashli ravravi. We'll say literally because this is a ruling which is supported by thick or heavy ropes. The idea being that we're going to explore this. Now it's actually going to be a beautiful sugya. So we'll say this is not unique to Nachum Hamadi. This opinion is held by many. This sanya, we'll say here we go. This is actually a very beautiful sugya. The sanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Shoel Adam Tzrachav Achar Kach Yispal. Rabbi Eliezer says that a person should first ask his needs and only then daven. Now, when the Gemara says Yispalo over here, Rashi says means Yud Ches, Shmona Esrei, but really is referring to praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person should first ask his needs, and then he daven Shmona Esrei. Then he should daven with supplicatory prayer afterwards. Shneimar, where does he get this from? So I'll say this is very interesting. But again, so Rabbi Eliezer Shita is ask your needs first, praise second. Shneimar, Tefillah la'ani kiyatov. Literally, again, the prayer for the ani. We'll say ani could not just mean poor, but ani could also mean afflicted. Kiyatov, and he wraps himself. Before Hashem, he will spill his sicho. Ein sicha ela tefillah. And sicha, I will say, means tefillah. Sicha means prayer. Shene'emar, vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh. Yitzchak went ahead and went out to pray in the tefillah. So we'll say, the drush over here is tefillah la'ani kiyatov, seems to mean my requests. So I am permitted to lodge my requests, and then I daven, then I do Shmona Esrei. So petitions, requests first, Shmona Esrei afterwards. Yeshua says no. Just the opposite. First you should daven Shmona Esrei, daven, right? Praise, Bakasha, Hodah, or I should say praise, Shevach, Hodah, Thanksgiving, and then you should ask your request, Shneimar, Eshpoch lefanav sichi, I will pour my siach, my prayer before you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sarasi lefanav agid. I will put my suffering before you. So I have Rabbi Elazar nami yaksiv eshpoch lefanav sichi. I have Rabbi Elazar, he also has the pasuk of eshpoch lefanav sichi. Hachi kamer, this is what it means to say. Eshpoch lefanav sichi. When will I go ahead and pour my siach in front of you? When I pour my prayers in front of you? Bizman shetzarasi lefanav agid. When I tell you my troubles first. When I first ask for you my questions, then I'll daven to you afterwards. Rabbi Yeshua, nami haksif tefillah nikiyatov. I Rabbi Yeshua, it also says tefillah nikiyatov. Hachi kamar, a masai tefillah ani. Ultimately, again, when is the tefillah ani? When could the ani ask for his requests? Bizman shelifnei Hashem yishpoch sicho. Ultimately, again, only when what? only when he first pours out his siach, his prayer, ultimately again, before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Gemara ends off by says, Michti, Kroi, Lo Kimar Daiki, Velo Kimar Daiki. So we'll say, bottom line is, the psukim are inconclusive. The psukim can be interpreted in each way. I will say, ultimately, again, what are they arguing about? And I will say, we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up with the statement of Rabbi Smaloi. We'll continue with that. We'll say, Mazel Tov to Mr. Lussman on the occasion of the engagement of his granddaughter. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. And I will say, we'll pick up over here, Miras Hashem, tomorrow morning on Zayin Amud Beis.